So let's talk injury prevention. Okay, so whether it be for Special Forces assessment and selection or Ranger selection, Navy SEAL selection, whatever. One of the most common ways, if not the most common way across everything, for people to wash out of those courses is through injuries. That's the reality of the situation. Super high risk events, super high risk activities when it comes to injuries, and if you're not doing everything in your power ahead of time to potentially prevent some of these common injuries, then you're really doing yourself a disservice, right? Because why do we put all this effort in just to end up getting injured in a way that we could have prevented? Okay, so what are the most common injuries that you're going to see that are going to take you out of training? Okay, well, by far, the most common one is overuse and overtraining injuries that sort of hit their ultimate level while you're at SFAS because of the huge amount of volume and things you're doing, right? So, for example, in your train up, you had really bad shin splints. You were able to back off a little bit, but you kept training through it. You go to SFAS, still having sort of issues with your shin splints, and wham, you're going to have stress fractures, right? Same thing in your feet. You're having plantar fasciitis issues. You're training through it, and you're going to end up going and breaking your feet at selection, right? So those are, it's a hard concept, right? Because we have to train for selection, and that requires high level of training, high level of volume, high level of miles. But we have to do it in a way that is going to not send us to the event already sort of injured in the background, right? If you go to SFAS already with some type of injuries, you're probably leaving completely injured, okay? So, and I'm no stranger to this, right? I had both in my, one of my feet, I ended up breaking my feet because I had stress fractures from overuse, and I just trained and pushed through it nonstop and ended up completely fracturing my foot. And then again in my one of my shins, I had tibial shin splints, so on the inside of your shins, so bad that I ended up getting stress fractures through my tibia, and both those things really delayed me multiple months. I was fortunate that I had the time to recover and continue, but a lot of guys don't. So how do we go about preventing that stuff then, right? Okay, so number one, what I would suggest is start your train up much earlier than you'd think, right? 12 months ahead of time, right? And that way you can slowly build capacity, right? And you can sort of build the resiliency in your bones and your feet and your ankles and your shins and all those things over time. And that way, if you start having overuse issues, you can back that way off, take some time off, completely heal, and then get back to training. If you start trying to train up 3 months ahead of time, you're not going to have time to do that. You're going to have to either just push through the injuries and to be able to train to be fit enough, or you're probably just going to end up being injured. Okay, so that's number one. Start that train up much, much earlier, and it'll be very beneficial to you. Number two, for me, something that changed my whole life is get the correct pair of shoes. So for me, I have the Brooks Ghost. Obviously, this is going to be different for everybody depending on your feet. But after I had such bad overuse injuries, and I was having shin splints all the time, plantar fasciitis, I had somebody suggest to me to go to a running store and have a professional, they have the machines they're going to hook you up to and everything, and actually get fitted for the correct running shoe. It's amazing how many people, including myself, had no idea that's a thing. Just go out and buy running shoes. Well, no. If you don't get the right shoes, that alone can cause all these issues. So for me, as soon as I got fitted for these shoes, which are correct for my feet, I immediately never had shin splints or plantar fasciitis ever again. It was gone instantly. So, and that's just because I changed my footwear to something I should have been using to begin with. Okay, so make sure you do that if you haven't already done that. Next big one, while we're still talking about equipment or foot gear, is your boots. Okay, so this is more specific to land navigation side of things. Make sure, I would suggest, because one of the most other common issues and injuries sort of more on the traumatic side of things is breaking ankles out of land nav, right? Because it's nighttime, you're stepping in holes, you're stepping over logs, you're gonna roll your ankles hundreds of times. It's gonna be painful. So what I would suggest is make sure you buy boots that are have high heels on them, right? You want them high up on your ankles. You don't want to get low cut boots that when you roll your ankles, there's no support and you're just gonna break your ankles, right? It's a really common thing, really common injury throughout, especially SFAS, but even the rest of the course. So do yourself a favor, and if you want 2 different types of boots, you got your boots for doing your rucks and your runs, that's fine, and then have a more industrial boot for land navigation. And at land navigation, make sure you wear your eye pro, guys, your safety glasses. I know it's nighttime, they fog up, it's annoying, but I watched a lot of dudes take sticks into the eyes, and it just immediately ends those guys' chances of finishing. They're med dropped right away, right? An eye injury is immediately gone. So just a tip, don't take those safety glasses off at land nav. It's for your own good. Next one, and this is one I wish I would have learned earlier in my career. You know, in your 20s, you think you're invincible, but that is being consistent on active stretching, yoga, whatever you want to do, however you want to call it, but you have to stay up on your flexibility and your mobility, guys. It's going to make a huge difference for you in injury prevention when we're doing high stress, high physical stress, traumatic style events, running huge distances, rucking huge distances, land nav, all those things. That flexibility and mobility is going to make a huge difference in your ability to stay healthy. Okay, I didn't do any of that stuff early in my career, and I suffered the consequences of it. I had ended up with much worse injuries to my knees and back and hips because I wasn't really taking care of myself the way I should have. Now I do, right? And that has helped me sort of prevent more injuries on top of what I already have. So even if you feel good, make sure you're doing that. You know, you're using your foam roller, your roll out balls, you're stretching. Do it, and do it every day, especially while you're in the course, okay? Final one for injury prevention that I would suggest that I didn't do, that I wish I would have, and that is train with whatever you're actually going to use at selection. What do I mean by that? Okay, so whatever rucksack you are actually going to be required to use at selection, train with that in your train-ups, right? Whatever boots you're going to have to wear, whatever types of socks, anything that you're going to have to actually use at SFAS, you need to be training with ahead of time, right? So if you're using some fancy Mystery Ranch backpack that feels super good on you, and you're doing your rucks with that, it's not going to do you any benefit when you throw that Molly rucksack on and it starts ripping you apart because you haven't built up the resilience in those areas and those hot spots from the ruck. Same thing with your boots, same thing with your socks, right? And now all of a sudden you're getting blisters, and now you're getting cellulitis from the blisters, and now all of a sudden you're dropped, right? So yeah, I hope all those things give you guys a good idea and ways that you can train, and also, you know, equipment, things you can do, get your feet checked by, you know, for running, all those different things that'll accumulatively hopefully help you prevent getting injured and then making your way through the course. Because you know, number one thing before graduating is staying healthy, right? That'll lop anybody off, and whether you're a low performer or the number one performer in the class, serious injury can ruin things for you. All right, so hope those ideas help, and have a good day.